Hey everybody, this is Justin again with a quick InDesign tutorial here. I want to go over something that I've had some requests for and something that I see pretty commonly on an everyday basis when I'm working with my students is finishing out your InDesign files, how to export these things properly for print and so other people can see them, things of that nature. Just kind of your last steps on these documents. So let's just say, for instance, that I've got a composition here, this nature, that I've got, if you notice, a 1/4 inch bleed set up on this document. So let's just say we were preparing this for print. I've got some text, just some filler text here. I've got title. We got a couple different fonts here that I'm working with. I've got an image source from another folder. And so I've got a couple things I need to make sure that I can keep with this document whenever I send this off to press or when I send this to a client for proof. First off, just fix my bleed a little bit there. Okay, so just by hitting W, I can see what this thing would look like when it was cropped down, or at least closer to what it was cropped down and printed. So that's just a handy hotkey to kind of see if my bleed is set up right. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to finish this document out. So first thing, it has to be saved, obviously. So just make sure you do a little file save or Command S, Control S for PC before you do this. But we want to do a couple of things. First things first, there's kind of a cool little thing down on the bottom here. If you look on the bottom of your InDesign document down here, there's actually a little pre-flight option down here in the bottom. See this little green light? What this is doing is while you're building your document, Adobe InDesign is kind of checking to see if you've made any errors in color, links, things of that nature. You can go into this pre-flight panel if you want from right here, and it'll open up your pre-flight panel, and we can go through and check to see if we've got any errors. Now, there's no errors pulling up on this because I haven't done anything wrong yet, but if you've done anything like really egregiously wrong, it'll show up in this panel, and you can kind of check it just to see what you've got. You can set it up for print, digital publishing, things of that nature. But that's just kind of a quick check type of thing. But really, let's just say that you've done everything right. I want to try and keep the video shorter here. A couple things you can do. First things first, what you always want to do with a document when you're done working on it, you want to do two different things. First off, what you want to do is you want to do File, Package. Okay, Package is a really important option in InDesign. What this is going to do, let me go ahead and hit File, Package here. Okay, so this actually runs kind of sort of its own little pre-flight summary here as well. We've got a couple things on the left here. We've got a summary of things that could possibly be wrong in my document, and I've left a couple things in here just so you can see what's happening. This shows you how many fonts you're using. 2 fonts used, 0 missing, 0 embedded, 0 incomplete, 0 protected. Keep an eye on this. Protected fonts, a lot of times I see people downloading fonts. A lot of my students will download fonts from like these 2001 free font websites and things of that nature. A lot of those fonts, if you read the copy on those things, the copyright on those things, many of those fonts are not approved for commercial use, which is really important that you don't use them in commercial work without the artist's permission or without buying them. So this will tell you if those fonts are protected. Pretty cool. This will tell you how many links you've got, which is images. I have images linked into this. I have 1 image linked. So 0 modified, 0 missing. Now InDesign will still show the image down here in a lower res format if it's missing, and it won't tell you that until you're in your pre-flight panel or until you're in your package panel or pre-flight panel. It also tells me that this image is using RGB color space, which is a big no-no for print. So what I would want to do, if I had the time, is I would want to take this thing back into Photoshop and convert it to CMYK so it wouldn't pitch this error. Okay, so it talks about inks, talks about plugins. Again, you just kind of look through this a little more in depth. Talks about what fonts you're missing here, so it is a little more in depth here. Your links and images, where they're located, which is pretty handy, what size they are, what colors you'd be using, and what angle aligns for all this, the good color settings, print settings, external plugins if you're using those. So just kind of glance through that. I'm going to go ahead and hit package though. I don't want to dwell on that too long. Here you can put some instructions if you want. You can put some contact, which is not a bad idea if you're sending this off to somebody, a printer or client, company address, etc., etc. I'm going to click continue. And I need to put it into a folder. And I've just made a sample document folder here. And I've got a couple things. Copy fonts, accept these fonts in Typekit. Again, be careful. If you're using fonts in Adobe Typekit, it's not going to copy those fonts. Those stay inside Typekit. They protect those fonts out. So be careful using those fonts in Typekit unless you're going to outline them. Copy linked graphics, update graphic links and package, etc. So I'm going to click package. Okay. So, and this says, be careful, restrictions apply. Again, that's what it's talking about here, fonts, licensing on your fonts, that type of thing. So just make sure you're using copyright free fonts, or you've paid for your fonts, one of the two. All right, so now what this is doing is a couple different things. This is creating, if I look inside my folder here, sample document, this creates a folder. Okay, so inside my folder here, my sample InDesign folder, this is my package folder here. This, if you notice, what it's done here is pulled out my fonts, and it's taken the font files and popped them inside this fonts folder. Any instructions that I've added, it's got those in there. Links is my images. Now this will actually keep this inside whatever folder I've pulled it from. So it keeps this relative path. So now I know this will show up in my document. Okay, InDesign file, and it's made a PDF file, which is great. But one thing I would suggest on this is checking and exporting this PDF file manually. There are some errors that can crop up on this PDF file if you're not paying attention to it, or if you've got default set weird. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. I'm going to throw this PDF file away because I haven't set my presets yet. Okay, so one thing you want to do is export a PDF file, and I want to show you why. So file, export. All right, so this is going to be an Adobe PDF file. Now you got two different kinds of basic PDFs that you can export out of InDesign. Again, lots of other files. For your clients, for proofs, just send them JPEGs. That's something that is good just to protect yourself and to keep your file size small. JPEGs are great. Interactive PDFs you can add, and I'll do some more tutorials about this later. You can add all kinds of functions inside these. You can add animations, you can add videos, you can add buttons, all kinds of stuff. The print PDFs is what we want to do for, say this were a print document. Okay, so I'm going to click that, and I'm going to click Save. Now another dialog is going to come up, and a lot of people just blow through this dialog, but you need to pay attention to this. These settings that I've set for my stuff aren't always defaulted out to this. 9 times out of 10, what you're going to get on a lot of these things when you are going through and exporting this is high quality print. Now high quality print is not what you want to use to send these things off to press. High quality print is intended to print off at high quality from a desktop printer. It's kind of like a hard proofing type of thing. So this is not your highest quality. This actually compresses your images out, which is bad. Okay, smallest file size is something you can also send clients if you need to retain PDF for them. Press quality is what you want to choose if you're actually going to send this to press. And this actually even says this here in the description, so make sure you read these descriptions. Just check your different stuff here. Make sure your pages, the pages that you want exported, are in there. Whether you're set to pages or spreads, you can put thumbnails in there, or for fast web preview. Okay, you can view the PDF or not view it. I'm going to turn on view so you can see that when we're done. Okay, what layers do we want to export? We could export all layers, or just visible or visible and printable layers, which is important to make sure that you get the right one checked. Okay, all this different stuff in here, hyperlinks if you wanted to add those, interactive elements. Okay, right, notice the press quality has do not include. Compression, again, you have all the different compression settings. I'm not going to beat these to death, but you can turn compression off inside here. You can leave it at 300 dpi or higher or lower. Biggie, right here, marks and bleed. This is something you need to keep an eye on. This will burn you every time when you're sending something to press if you do not turn this on. Notice what is turned off by default. Use document bleed settings. If you would send this to press and you wouldn't have these bleed settings, I guarantee if your printer is worth their weight in cardstock or whatever you're paying them in, these settings need to be checked. They will need the bleed for this. Okay, if you turn this off, a lot of printers, the not so great printers, will try and stretch your document to fit, which means your document's going to be a 1/4 inch smaller than you thought, or you're just going to have to resend it to them, which is going to push back your print date and you're going to blow a deadline. So go in and turn this on. You can also add crop marks. Some printers will want crop marks, bleed marks, registration marks, color bars, etc. All that stuff's in here. So those are the biggies. There's other things you can do inside here, like in the output. You can make change the color gamut to RGB, things of that nature. Here's kind of an interesting one. If you're really wary about somebody, let's say a client that you're working with is maybe you're getting a kind of a weird, shady feeling from them. You're not sure they're going to pay you here. You could, I'm not saying you should, but you could require a password to open this document. So you could send this to them if they haven't paid you yet and you're worried about them paying you. And you can say, hey, here's your document. I'm going to give you the password whenever I get my last check. Now, again, be careful with that. That's kind of holding a document hostage. That could be problematic. Or if you're worried about them taking it off to press without them paying you, you could require permissions for printing in high resolution. So that's something you could lock out without a password. They'd be able to view it. They'd be able to do all kinds of different stuff in here. You can turn off the ability to copy text. So you can kind of protect your documents a little bit in here. That's pretty useful. Okay, so there's just some kind of interesting, I'm going to turn the password back off here, some interesting settings you need to pay attention to when you're exporting these things that are not turned on by default, so you need to check those. Now my exported PDF will be the correct PDF, and I just pop that into that folder. So again, I would recommend, now I see I've got the bleed inside here as well as all my different stuff that I set. So one thing you need to do, as I was saying, is you need to make sure you package every InDesign file you work on. Package this InDesign file, okay, make a package for it, and then export a press quality PDF, or again, if it's a proof, you could always do the smallest file size. So there you go. Hopefully that helps you out a little bit in packaging up your files and finishing files, things of that nature. Again, if there are any other tutorials you'd want to see, anything custom, feel free to email me, justincustom@gmail.com, and I'll do my best to get it up on the web in a timely manner. All right, thanks.